Good morning to everybody. I'm hoping that everyone had a wonderful weekend. It is Monday, it is a bright day, it is a lovely day, it is a positive day. I am your host, Azard Gumbs, and with me is Jamsa this morning. We are going to have a wonderful morning this morning. We are going to have a wonderful show. We have a packed show. We have about...
Isn't it the other way around?
What's that?
Isn't it Jamster and you?
I really don't know, Jamster.
Asking for a friend.
I'm not answering for anyone. So it's a wonderful morning, and it's always good when you have the AZ, as he likes to call me, and the Jamster here in studio in the morning. We are giving you information, we're giving you discussion, and we're giving you conversation, of course. And so we want to keep you locked on Win FM and locked on the morning program here at Win FM. It is a beautiful morning, as I said before. Some of the news items, when you look at the local news here, you see that CARICOM must play a leadership role in addressing deteriorating situation in Haiti, says CARICOM heads of government. We have the ECCB unveils 40th anniversary calendar of events reflecting the colorful economy of the ECCU. We have St. Kitts and Nevis continues to pursue collaborative engagement with friendly countries. We have revised St. Kitts and Nevis CBI regulations provide opportunities for local and diaspora businesses and entrepreneurs to benefit. And then we have some regional attention. Or even before we get to the local continuing, we see about authorities refute claims that Delia Hanley was a witness in criminal matter. So the authorities have refuted claims that Delia Hanley was witness in criminal matter. So we also have some of the interesting regional news. We have here that Trinidad to host regional symposium on crime. And Jamster, we have in studio this morning the police officers. And you know what the police officers are going to be talking about? They're going to be talking about the traffic lights, the commissioning of the traffic lights. Just last week when we were here on the radio, you spoke, a caller called in, and he had a very interesting point of view. He said that how the traffic is, it doesn't seem like the traffic lights are needed. I don't know how other people feel about that, I don't know if we have other callers who want to give their opinions. But we're going to have the police here this morning with members of the public works who will be here to answer questions and be here to discuss the commissioning of the traffic lights right up there by the industrial site area, Bird Rock area. And of course, callers, we welcome you to call in. This is your program. This is your opportunity to hear your views and to discuss with persons who have some sort who are in touch with the process. Let me say are in touch with the process. So, Jamster, how has your weekend been?
Oh, I had a good weekend, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, had a good weekend, I would say.
That is wonderful. And of course, we have some information here. Looking at some of the latest stories, we have Suriname Press Association condemns recent attacks on journalists. We have 6 tourism entities receive CTO Caribbean Sustainable Tourism Awards. We have the hottest carnival costumes to look out for at Curacao Carnival 2023. So we have some food for thought, and there's some information out there. We just celebrated Valentine's Day, and some interesting perspective from Valentine's Day. I want to share some 7 facts about Valentine's Day perhaps persons didn't know about, and this is by Shireen Joseph. And I'm not going to go through the entire article. I'm just going to highlight the 7 points without having to go into the discussion. It says here there are 7 intriguing facts about holiday dedicated to romance and affection. We have origins to a bloody pagan festival. So it says, origins to a bloody pagan festival. We have first Valentine's letter was written from prison. Saint Valentine wasn't just one person. Valentine's Day officially became a holiday of love in the 1300s. Number 5, Cupid began as a Greek god. Number 6, how X came to mean kiss. And number 7, the tradition of giving Valentine's Day flowers dates back to the 17th century.
And well, the other thing we're celebrating this month is Black History
Black
Month.
History Month, of
and,
course.
And there's one story here I wanted to highlight. Two congressmen have tabled a bill to exonerate Marcus Garvey. It was introduced to the U.S. Congress. One of the congressmen said, the world deserves to know the truth about Marcus Garvey and the truth about Black history. I was raised under the teachings of Marcus Garvey, added the first vice chair. That's one of the congressmen of the Congressional Black Caucus. Her name is Yvette Clarke, and she's a daughter of a Jamaican immigrant. Now, the reason why they're seeking exoneration for Garvey is that back in the time when Garvey was fighting for African people of African descent rights and stuff. We all hear the stories of, for example, the U.S. government spying on people like Martin Luther King and trying to create, bad PR for him. And so there was a lot of that going on with Garvey. He was actually sent to jail for 5 years on trumped-up charges, and they're now seeking to get all of those charges expunged and have Garvey exonerated, because, as you know, Garvey was born in Jamaica, but I don't know if you know the rumor that he was actually born in St. Kitts. Have you ever heard that? Yes.
Oh wow, that would be interesting.
Yes, I've heard the story. The story goes, the apocryphal story goes that Garvey was actually born in Sandy Point, I think, to a Kittian mother and a Jamaican father, and apparently they moved back. This is what I was told.
Yes.
And the dad wanted to move back to Jamaica, and I think he moved back when he was 4 or 5, something like that. But interesting that
yes,
Marcus Garvey and it's interesting that you have a Caribbean national having such a huge impact on the African American psyche, and like a huge influence in terms of getting us to love ourselves and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Jamster, you know what happened again? We have an article as well here saying that another earthquake recorded off Bermuda, and it says a magnitude of 4.1 earthquake was recorded in the Eastern Caribbean this morning. The UE Seismic Research Center said that the earthquake occurred around 4:54 a.m.
But I felt one earlier
and had a depth of 10 kilometers, and this was 24 hours ago, so it probably will have been on Sunday.
Yeah.
So we're seeing here some sort of seismic activity happening within the Caribbean, and very often, Jamster. I mean, these earthquakes are happening very often.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't mean that we're going to be hit, because you know that we're in a very active. The Caribbean plate is a very active seismic zone.
Yes.
So, and then there's more water than us and more water than land. So
I don't even want to call that word.
I know.
Yeah.
So,
I don't want
there's that to think about, and these islands aren't very small.
Exactly.
That's one of the things. So Trinidad Carnival, you could say, gets started in earnest today.
Yes.
Monday, there's tomorrow, then Ash Wednesday is when things shut down, and it's like the French tradition. These last 2 days, it's all about getting the vice and the sin out of your system. I hate putting it like that. I mean, that's really those are really the roots, but it sounds really it sounds really bad when you think about it, but that's basically the root of carnival.
So we are here, and of course, Jamster, we're going to prepare for the police officers momentarily, and of course we have a very interesting discussion to to be had, and it's going to be about the commissioning of the traffic lights. After that, we're going to be speaking about the situation with the NRP, considering that the budget is to be heard today, this morning, in Nevis, the Nevis Island administration, and there's still no word of of a leader of the opposition, and we know why, because of some of the occurrings and some of the the instances that have occurred. And then afterwards we have two guests which will speak about black education. And so we have a very packed show this morning. It should be very interesting, and we want our guests to call in. If you want to speak about or address something, just call in and hear your views.
Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play, I have a clip here with Mark talking about why Janice Daniel cannot and will not be the leader of the opposition.
think we should play it.
It's less than a minute.
Yeah, but I wanted it when we get our guest with Peter for it to be played, so we have the context there already, so he could give his views on it as well, rather than playing it now. Yes. So it's just an opportunity for us to get ready. And of course, we have also a clip by Roy Fleming as well, who gave his perspective on the situation. So we're going to play those two clips, but we're going to play them closer to when we have our guest, Peter Wickham. We know Peter Wickham is a political analyst. He is one who has given his view on many situations here within the Caribbean and in St. Kitts and Nevis as well. And so we welcome his view. We listen to what he has to say as it relates to the situation here in St. Kitts and Nevis, more specifically in Nevis. We are going to have a wonderful time this morning, a very good morning here in the studio to ensure that we get things rolling, we get things packed, and we get things continuing. Okay, yes. So, Jamster, you know that are you a Calypso lover?
I'd say yes.
So, you know, Dominica had its Calypso Monarch competition, and you know Trinidad and Tobago had their Calypso Monarch competition as well.
Yeah, Trilogy won in Dominica last night.
Yes.
Not last night. I think it was Saturday night. Right?
Yes, yes, around that. I think it was Saturday.
The Trinis had theirs last night.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, go ahead.
No, I was saying I was hoping that let me see if they've put up the results yet. I was kind of hoping that they would have put up the results for last night already. They've been getting a lot of criticism for the one song thing, and then I have a friend who thinks that he thinks that they picked the finalists based on the more like a soca the song sounded, that increased your likelihood of making to the finals because they wanted to make sure people showed up for the Calypso. So people always have their views on I think with the Calypso and judging Calypso, and so there's always some sort of view, some sort of contention when it comes to that. The thing is because of post-COVID hardship, the Trinidad government, they have the subsidy that they usually give to Carnival. So they had to scrap the organizers. It's basically a private. The Soca Monarch is basically a private enterprise, but the government usually gives them money, and they decided not to have the show because there wasn't enough money, and it also meant that the money for the Calypso Monarch was half as well. So which is why they only had one song. And there was also some criticism about the fact that I thought this was kind of dodgy too. When they announced the finalists, yes, they just announced them in alphabetical order. They didn't give the points, which I thought was kind of odd, Yes. So which kind of added fuel to the fire of people saying, well, what do you mean you're not giving the points? You're giving them in alphabetical order. I mean, what is this, an ensemble film? You know?
I guess because it's one song, And maybe because it's one
it's
song.
one song, but you shouldn't be. My thing is, you shouldn't be putting your hand on the scale because you want people. If that's the reason, like, because you want people to come to the show, and that sounds kind of dodgy to me. I mean,
you know. Well, we have here the Calypso. You know that for the semifinals, the points are released, but then you have the second song. So even though someone might have gotten the top score in the semifinals, there's no guarantee that that individual is going to get the top score on the finals because there's an additional song to be added. There's the performance aspect that would be enhanced. And so I guess maybe they didn't want people to assume or have a idea of who the winner might have been on the show, on the night of the show, because it's only one song. So maybe that might have been a reason.
You know, hold that thought. It's 8:34. We still don't see the police officers yet. Not good. Not good. Not good. It's this is traffic talk time. We still don't see the officers, so we're hoping they're gonna show up soon. This is really not a good look, people. So back. There's one thing I wanted to say about the Calypso thing. You got the results?
Well, here I see the winners. So I see for the Trinidad and Tobago, I see first is Dwayne O'Connor. Won. Then we have Karine Figaro second, and then we got Karen Eshe as third.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so 2 females in the top 3.
Yeah, so we have the police officers here with us, Jam. So could we take a brief break for the commercial and get right back to you? An interesting topic this morning.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Be careful on the road. Don't make it an episode. Attention all drivers, I'm begging you to slow it down, down. Too many stunt drivers on the road, man. With the fire day, driver, what's your emergency? It's better late than never, so why all the hurry? Mishaps. The road is now a racetrack, threatening life and property, and all the result of that led to death and injury. Inconsiderate driving, this nonsense need to stop. I'm making it my business to alert all motorists, especially those who love to break traffic laws. I have seen what speed can do. Here I am to your rescue to help you to live. Just take this advice I give. I want in all drivers to take care of your passengers. Be careful on the road. Don't make it an episode. How much more tragedy we have to endure to face the reality. Let's say
Good morning again, and we're here with the officers, and we're going to have traffic talk. We're going to be talking about the commissioning of the lights, the road signs as well. And so we encourage persons who are listening to call in and have your questions. Listen, be attentive, because, you know, there might be road signs that you might not be aware of, and you might see these signs and not know how to handle or how to react to these signs. And so we have the police officers here. We have Inspector, we have the inspector, and we have the sergeant as well, Inspector Phipps and Sergeant Henry. We have them here this morning, and we welcome them. We want them to feel welcome here in the studio of Win FM and on the morning program. So welcome, hoping that you guys are having a wonderful day so far.
Good morning to all. I am Inspector Phipps, and with me is Sergeant Sophia Henry. This morning we'll be dealing with or more updating you on the traffic signs, road signs, and their meaning. And also we will have Mr. Pemberton from the Public Works Department, who also will give a little insight on the commissioning of the traffic lights at Bird Rock.
Good morning, all. As the inspector said, I am Sergeant Henry, and I am from the Traffic Department. This morning we'll be talking about road signs. And road signs are there to serve as a warning to all road users to ensure they are safe from potential driving hazard and situation. They also help regulate the flow of traffic among vehicles, as well as road users, pedestrians and cyclists, even animals. And these traffic control signal are devices placed along or beside or above a roadway to guide, warn, and regulate, as I said, the free flow of traffic. Without these, we'll have a lot of hazard or congestion in traffic. So that's the reason why road signs are placed. And as the inspector said, the commissioning of the Bird Rock traffic light will soon be commissioned. And when these signs are commissioned, it helps to regulate the flow of traffic. And they're not just putting the traffic signs because they want to put them down, the signals, the lights. It is because of the congestion of traffic, and they're trying to ease the flow of such that persons can move frequently. And then Inspect will tell us about the different signs and the meaning and the colors of these signs. So I'll turn over to the inspector to give you the different colors and the meaning of the signs.
Yes, go ahead, Sergeant Henry. Oh, Inspector Phipps.
We all know that we have a few traffic lights, and they're with the traffic lights, we know there are different colors, and one would see the red light. Once that's showing, that means stop.
Yes.
We also would see the green. The green mean go ahead, and the yellow, which is we known as the amber, it's the signaling for you to stop or for when the lights is about to change. Also, there are a number of road markings in the road. We have the arrows, and you must follow the directions of the arrows. For example, if you're traveling up 4th Street, you will see the arrow both in the left and the right lane. If you're in the right lane, you proceed right. And if you're in the left lane, you proceed left. However, you cannot cut across over into the left or right lane after you have passed the line which you are supposed to stop behind. That will only create accidents, and person's life may be in danger.
Okay, wonderful. So I hope persons are listening and persons are paying attention, because, you have opportunities where persons might see these signs, and a lot of times persons, especially when you're coming on between the yellow and the red, may make very, decisions that aren't in the best interests of the traffic and safety.
Yes, and some person tend to speed up when
Yes.
they see the amber light, but that is to tell you to slow down because the red is coming up.
Yes, correct. So we have here who has joined us. We are joined. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, everybody. Those of you in Radio Land, my name is Livingston Pemberton. I am here as the Chief Engineer of the Public Works Department, and it is a pleasure for me to be here on Traffic Talk this morning.
Yes, and so we have Mr. Pemberton from the Traffic Department, and we're going to be talking about, yes, Public Works, who is going to be talking about the commissioning of the lights. So we have here representatives from the Traffic Department and Public Works. So both of them work hand in hand in the commissioning of the lights, and we have both institutions here represented. So, Mr. Pemberton, would you like to say anything as it relates to the commissioning of the traffic lights?
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction. The traffic lights in the Bay Road Boardwalk area, they should be commissioned shortly. We are looking at sometime during this week. What I would like to inform the general public about is that currently we are wrapping up the civil works. So once the civil works would have been completed, the lights would be turned on for testing purposes.
When you say civil works, what?
Okay, civil works, we have been putting in the sensors. We would have been putting in the PEDs, what we call the pedestrian crossing, all of the electrical work associated with the functioning of the lights. Those are being implemented at the moment. Once those would have been completed, then we will switch the lights on for testing purposes to make sure that there are no hiccups, there are no bugs in the system. Once we are satisfied that they are working the way that they should be working, then we would look at the official commissioning of the lights.
Okay. And so I know you can't give a date as yet, but approximate time, when do you foresee all of what needs to be done and the commission of these lights? When do you foresee it?
All right, we gave ourselves a timetable of approximately 2 weeks.
Okay.
We would have started a week ago. Mm-hmm. And so we were looking at, based on the program that we're working with, to finish all of the civil works during this upcoming week. Mm-hmm. And once that would have been completed and the testing would have taken place, then we move to the actual official commissioning of the lights.
Okay, and last week we had a caller who was very much, I would want to say, against the commissioning of the lights and having the lights up there. The caller indicated that the traffic seemed to be going well without the lights there. For callers or for persons who might have that point of view, what can you say to them to reassure them that the traffic lights is the best option as it relates to ensuring that traffic is maintained in an orderly fashion, that the traffic congestion is reduced?
Okay, what I would say to callers is this. When you're utilizing that junction, once the traffic lights would have been commissioned, what it does is that it gives each of the road user, whether you're coming from Birdwalk or the Bay Road or the Eastern Caribbean, and it gives you an equal opportunity to be able to maneuver or to utilize that junction. And so there will not be any conflicts anymore, because it means that when it's your turn to make a maneuver or to turn, you have exclusive rights. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to worry about the other person coming and cutting across you, because once you're on the sensor, it is your turn to move right or to move left, as the case may be. When your time has passed, it gives the other person an opportunity to also utilize that. The pedestrians are not left out. When the pedestrians need to cross the road, they would have all traffic will come to a halt, and the pedestrian will be allowed to safely cross the road. So it's going to be more efficient. It's going to be less stressful on you. And so when you get to work, you should be a lot more productive because, we've relieved a lot of that stress that you would have experienced when you were maneuvering in that particular intersection.
But I think you gave a very compelling answer as it relates to the benefits of the traffic lights. Officers, would you like to say anything in relation to that?
As it relates to the traffic lights at Birdwalk, a number of restrictions or changes will be made. For example, the road that leads to Seymour, that side road, that will be made a one-way. So you could only turn left if you're going to Seymour. And the Rams exit will now become their entrance.
Oh.
So you will have to exit on the same small street that
Yes.
All right, yes. And you cannot make that right turn into Best Buy.
Oh, yeah. Because you'll be cutting across traffic. So basically, you'll have to go up. How would you get to Best Buy?
I think we're gonna do some changes as it relates to Best Buy entry.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be permitted, but I have to get a little bit
no
more
problem,
insight on that. But then to get to KFC, if you're traveling from the eastern bank direction towards Birdwalk, as you pass, there'll be two lanes. So there's a lane for KFC, and then there's the other one that would take you straight to
Birdwalk. Okay. A lot of development, a lot of regulations being put in place, and the commissioning of the traffic lights. I'm sure that if someone who has not visited St. Kitts in the last 5 years was to come back now with all these traffic lights and regulations, they would have a very, I want to say, an adventure because an experience, because they would now have to get used to the traffic lights and what they can and cannot do. Yes, so in the short years, we have seen much progress as it relates to the traffic lights and how they have changed the traffic here in St. Kitts and Nevis and the culture as it relates to driving in St. Kitts and Nevis.
And it wouldn't be much difficult for them because there are signs that telling them you cannot turn right. So as soon as you approach, you'll see the sign saying no right turn.
Yes.
So at least you know you cannot turn right there because it's on your left.
Yes.
And we drive on our left, so you always look for this sign to make sure what you can do and what you cannot do.
You know, what I use in my mind is that you can't cut across traffic. So if you know you're on a road where you have the traffic lights, you know in your head, you can turn certain areas because if you're going to cut across a lane to go into an intersection or junction, that is where I think, okay, then you can't cut across the traffic because then you cause congestion.
So both of you traveling.
So that does be my cue.
Yes.
Yes. So anyone wants to say anything? And we have any callers out there? I mean, this is an interesting topic. I mean, this is your opportunity to talk directly with persons who are involved in the process. So we have so many things that are happening in the traffic. We have, and I think perhaps a word towards not only drivers, but pedestrians.
Yes.
Because pedestrians take advantage at times because, you know, as a driver, you see that the light is green and they sometimes cross the road while the light is green, not realizing that they are causing not only potential harm to themselves, but also causing the traffic to become congested and to go against what the traffic lights is all about. Because if you have a light there green and the cars are supposed to pass, there's no crossing and persons just see it as an opportunity to run across the road. I mean, that is where you could get in some serious trouble and also be damaged. We have a caller. Okay.
Hi, good morning, officers.
Good morning.
Good morning, radio host.
Good morning.
I have a question. The question is, what is happening at Boardwalk right now? Is it working or is it not working? In my view, if something is working, don't fix it. If it's working efficient and good for you, don't fix it. If you leave from Bastia to go to Boardwalk and you want to go to Best Buy, you can go to Best Buy now and you can do it easily. When you put the traffic light, you can't. The traffic light going to build lots of hindrance. It's going to stamp out lots of business opportunities in the area, and it's working efficient and effectively now. If you can convince me that it's not working now, then something is wrong with me as a regular user of the same road. And so I think that we should look at this carefully. We should also move the big stone exiting Port Zante so that traffic can clearly use the roundabout that they normally used to use at the end and the western side of Port Zante. So there are some changes need to be made, but it must be in the interest of all the public and everybody. Not because you feel like that you install traffic light that you should turn them on. You turn them off if they're working, if it's efficient. If you're having a problem, you're not having a problem. So why are you going to create one? I'm listening now for you. Have a good day.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you for that call. But it's not only going into Best Buy. Remember, if you're going on the Birdrock main road, sometimes you have challenges getting out of in there. So we are doing it to ease everybody. It's not only Best Buy alone going to be, as you said, we'll have some difficulties. But if I am coming from Bay Road and want to get out into Birdrock and the traffic is going, remember some persons are not road users and friendly because they don't want you to get out. They're going to continue going. They won't stop and say, okay, come out. So if the traffic light is there, everybody will get a turn to get out, as Mr. Pemberton said. Everybody will have a time and you get out freely. Yes, as the inspector said, we're going to be working on it. It's not that you can turn right from the Bay Road into Best Buy. Work is being done and we'll see how it go from there. It's not that we're restricting persons. So as the work progresses then, we'll see what we can do or what we cannot do.
Also to add, caller, we receive a number of calls concerning that Birdrock junctions. They will say, officer, could you send an officer here to direct the traffic? Having traffic light, it would ease the pressure on all. The traffic would flow more freely and the safety of persons and pedestrians will be at hand. And so with the introduction of the traffic light there, it would benefit all. What we have to do is adapt to the changes and continue and get ourselves aligned with the traffic lights, and you will get from place to place where you want to go easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have traffic talk here, and we have heard from the officers. We also heard from the Public Works Department, and we have another caller on the line. So caller, go ahead. Caller? Okay, we lost the call. Yes, so Mr. Pemberton, would you like to say anything as it relates to that? That was a direct comment.
I would just like to say to that caller and any other callers out there who might be wondering, it wasn't a situation where you just got up one day and decided that you were going to install traffic lights. Studies would have been done. We would have looked at the traffic, the number of vehicles that would have been on the road. We would have looked at the growth in the vehicular traffic on the road. And out of those studies, this commissioning of the lights would have been conceptualized. We must remember that this is not the only junction in the Bastia area that is being signalized. In fact, there would have been 7 identified. 6 would have been commissioned already. And so this is the final one that is to be commissioned. It should have been commissioned more than a year ago. But we did have some challenges which we ventilated, we looked at, we heard from different stakeholders. And out of those discussions, we have now come up with what we're about to implement. So I just want to let the caller know that studies were conducted. So it is based on a scientific approach. That is why the lights are being installed at that particular intersection.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so it's you have said that you are looking at a time frame of about 2 weeks, right? And that would give us the time has already started, correct?
Correct.
So the work has been being done over the past week?
Correct.
So we could see perhaps once all goes well as planned, to your estimation, perhaps next week?
That is possible. I would say on or before the end of this month, we should see the lights being commissioned.
Okay, so it should be interesting. A lot of development that relates to the traffic and the roads, and it's just a fun time. I remember when we had the first lights commissioned back some years ago, and it was a spectacle to behold. I think we had persons on the streets looking at the first traffic lights to be commissioned in town. And I remember a friend of mine from Barbados who I would have studied with, the individual, he said, well, you guys had a big thing just for the over there traffic lights. We've had these here all the time, but, it's just about the moment, and a moment in history where, we have our traffic lights installed. I know we would have had some sort of traffic lights before, but I think they were more on a temporary basis years ago. But it was really a big thing, and I saw persons selling popcorn and persons sitting on the street, and that was just a few years ago. And so we have seen the progress that has been made and the continued development as it relates to the installation of traffic lights across the Bastille region of the island. So anything else you guys would like to say? I think we have a few more minutes before we go on to our next guest, and so any lasting words that you like to give? Lasting words that you like to give at this point.
To all the drivers and owners of vehicle, as it relates to the activities that are taking place at the Birdwalk Junction, imploring them all to be cautious and have patience, as there are a number of work is being done there. For example, Public Works will be patching the small trenches in the road where the cables were buried. Also, the traffic department will be continuing the road marking in that area. And of course, by next week, we'll have the official or the final testing of the lights, and then the lights will be in commission.
I just want to inform the drivers. Remember, in certain places, you cannot turn right by the traffic light. We are getting reports of the taxi drivers especially. They are turning right opposite the Sand Complex. That's Port Zante East. It's an offense. And doing that, you can cause accidents, and you won't be charged for driving without due care and attention, because you know that you're not supposed to turn there. You'll be charged for reckless driving. So I'm imploring on the taxi drivers, those who are doing it, to desist from such.
We have a caller. Caller, you're live. Okay. Try again, caller.
Yes.
Oh, hello, caller.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
With regards to the road markings at that junction there at Birdwalk, one trusts that these markings will be better than exist at the moment. For example, when one is traveling east and going past the KFC outlet there, we have a situation where a lane is headed straight towards an oncoming lane and then suddenly swerves. That is very dangerous, especially at night. And one would trust that something better can be done for what is there. Because the notion that one is headed directly to an oncoming lane and all of a sudden swerves just seems to be asking for trouble, especially if at night and when it's raining. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. And coincidentally, just last week, we were having internal discussions as it relates to that very issue that you would have raised. And I can say to you, caller, that in short order, you should see some adjustment being made to that particular section of the road.
Okay. Anything you'd like to say, officers?
Yes, so remember, as I was saying, remember you're not supposed to turn right when you're coming from the post office end into Port Zante East.
Mm-hmm.
So persons who are doing it, it's an offense because the sign is there saying no right turn. And once you fail to do such, you'll be charged for failing to comply with traffic sign. And if you get into an accident, you'll be charged for dangerous driving. So persons who are doing that, as I said earlier, desist from such practice.
Mm-hmm. Inspector Phipps?
To add to Sergeant Henry, as we all know that once you exit the Sands complex, you can make the left and right turn. But as it relates to once you're traveling from west to east on the same bay road, you cannot make that right turn. You cannot make that right turn into Port Zante. So what I'm appealing on persons, before you start driving, think of where you want to go and plan, and so you will know exactly which is the easier route in and the easier route out.
You really do have to plan, You really have to plan before you even start. So I like that tip, because when you're going to some places, you have to really think which is going to be the easiest way based on all the new changes that have been made to the road. So yes, that is I like that. You really have to plan. So this is it for our program as it relates to traffic talk aspect, the discussion here. So we want to say thank you to all of you, Mr. Pemberton, Inspector Phipps, Sergeant Henry. It has been a wonderful time discussing the traffic changes and what is happening here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I do welcome you to come on the program again once the time allows you to do so and once the opportunity allows you to do so.
And thank you, Azard.
No problem, no problem.
Be careful on the road. Don't make it an episode.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Here are your Hot Goods Value Mart IG Value Club Valentine's Specials.
Running February 9 to the 22nd.
Our Value Club Blue Tag Specials, IGA and Essential Everyday Honey Beer, $15.99. Quaker Granola Bars, just $11.99. Or Ida Fries, $18.99. Breyers Premium Ice Cream, $26.99. Tide Liquid Detergent, $34.99. Suavitel fabric softener, just $19.99. And now our very low weekly
Value deals! Post honey bunches of oats, $12.99. Snack pack puddings, $5.99. IGA and essential everyday cream cheese, $6.49. Welch's grape juices, $15.99. Mr. Clean liquid cleaner, $12.99. Dial liquid hand soap, $5.99. Shop smart, shop value mart. Tell them in Spanish.
sea listo y haga sus compras aquí a Value Mart.
Hi everyone! Welcome to Conversations with Our Kids.
Tune in every Saturday morning to Conversations with Our Kids.
Oh my gosh! I am so excited for this show. I feel like a professional radio announcer already. I am nervous and excited at the same time.
10 a.m. is Kids Time on WINN-FM. Conversation with Our Kids.
I made sure to tell my entire family, my teacher, classmates to tune in. Tune in.
Conversation with Our Kids.
We're going to talk about education, religion, money, family life, social media, and other interesting topics. This is a show for kids, created by kids. Conversations with Our Kids. Every Saturday morning at 10, only on WINNMedia.
Listen live on WINN-FM 98.9 or at WINNMediaSKN.com. Conversation with Our Kids. Every Saturday morning at 10, only on WINN-FM. Also streaming live at WINNMedia SKN on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Welcome back, and we're here. We're live here on Win FM, and we're going to have our second discussion. It's about the Nevis, the NRP situation there in Nevis. We recognize that the budget is to be heard today in the island of Nevis, in the Nevis Island Administration, in the Nevis Island Assembly. And so we are having discussions. We've had discussions over the past weeks about the situation that has occurred with the resignation of a member of the NRP, and now that member now being an independent member in the House of Assembly in the Nevis Island Administration, in the Nevis Island Assembly, sorry. So we have a former member of the NRP, a elected candidate who would have resigned from the NRP and now is an independent member in the Nevis Island Assembly. So we are going to have that discussion, and I want persons, while looking at the situation that we have here in St. Kitts and Nevis, of course, it is an opportunity for us to learn more about our constitution, because I see that persons have been geared towards the discussion and been making references as it relates to the constitution, and making references as it relates to what their own views are. And of course, when it comes to the island of Nevis, if we had to look at our constitution, chapter 10 speaks about the island of Nevis, and chapter 10 of our constitution speaks to the island of Nevis, and section 100 speaks about the Nevis Island legislator, and section 101 speaks about the Nevis Island Assembly. 102 speaks about the Nevis Island Administration. 103 speaks about the power to make laws by the Nevis Island Administration and the Nevis Island Assembly, which is the Nevis Island Legislature. And number 104 speaks about provisions applied with modification. So I think that is an important aspect, because we have to look at section 104, provisions applied with modification, which gives reference to section 58, and section 58 of our constitution speaks about what we do in relation to the leader of the opposition, because that can be found in chapter 5. So looking at chapter 10, looking at section 104, the provisions applied with modification sends you back to section 58, which then speaks about the leader of the opposition. And just to make things clear, when it comes to the appointment of the leader of the opposition, the Constitution says the leader of the opposition, 58 says, there shall, except at times when no representative is eligible for appointment. So it gives the space for to have no person eligible for the appointment to be leader of the opposition in the National Assembly. And of course, we would interchange that with the Nevis Island Assembly, who shall be appointed by the Governor General. And he speaks, so whenever there is an occasion for the appointment of a leader of the opposition, the Governor General shall appoint the representative who appears to him to command the support of the largest single group of representatives who do not support the government, provided that no representative shall be eligible for the appointment unless it appears to the Governor General that the representative commands the support of at least one other representative. And I think that is important when we have our discussion, because the Constitution says, provided that no representative shall be eligible for appointment unless it appears to the Governor General that representative commands the support of at least one other representative. And I think that is what has created the situation that we are in here today, because we realize that you need at least the support of one other representative based on the Constitution here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we are going to have Peter Wickham give in on his view as it relates to the situation here in St. Kitts and Nevis, more specifically Nevis. Yes. Peter? Peter? Peter, fix your mic, please. Okay. What I'll do, we will have you via call then, because the Zoom that we want to have seems to. Yes. Try again, Peter. Yeah, there's something going on with your voice. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to end the Zoom, and then we'll start again. Yes. So of course the situation here in St. Kitts and Nevis, more specifically Nevis, and we've had persons who have given their views on the situation. We are hoping to have representatives from the various parties to discuss the matter here at hand, because it's a situation that we find ourselves in St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course we've always asked, or we've always pushed for constitutional reform, because we realize that there are things in our constitution, there are provisions in our constitution that needs addressing for the smooth governance. But then you know that the provisions are here because even within the constitution it says there shall be a leader of opposition except at times when no representative is eligible for appointment. So the Constitution does give way for no leader of the opposition to be there as well. Peter?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you much better.
Okay, great. Okay. Let's jump straight in. And thanks for having me. I agree with you that the Constitution of Nevis clearly anticipates the possibility that there will be no leader of the opposition, because with a small number of seats, it's entirely possible.
Yeah, and it's not only the Constitution of Nevis, the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Yes.
So Sinkes and Nevis. But we're speaking about Nevis today specifically.
Yes, we are.
So the Constitution does anticipate it, but my challenge is that the qualifications as to the suggestion that there needs to be another person who commands the majority, who it indicates that they support the other person. I'm not convinced that situation has arisen because the very first provision says that there should be a leader of the opposition, provided that there is someone eligible. And to my mind, there are two eligible persons. The Governor General just has to determine which of the two eligible persons they will choose.
Yeah, but let me read let me read the provision.
I read it.
Okay.
You don't have to read it over.
But it says provided that no. Yeah, it says provided that no, because the provision clause is like it supersedes the clause before. Because it says provided that no representative shall be eligible for the appointment unless it appears. So to me, that is clear.
Yeah, but as that I'm no lawyer, but my thing is that when you start a provision by saying that there shall be an opposition leader and that you indicate that the person who is most likely to command is supporting the majority of elected members in the assembly, it's consistent with the legislative provisions that are across the board. Where
but it also,
for the
Peter,
Governor
it
General.
says,
hold on, let me speak now. It is consistent with the provisions across the region that more or less mandates the Governor General to identify the person that is likely. The question as to except at times when when elected member is eligible for appointment, this is the whole question of eligibility. That's something which my sense is that the second provision speaks to the question of eligibility. And I'm saying that in this instance, I don't know that question of eligibility arises because there is a person or there are two people eligible. And the question as to which one of the two, I think it should be obvious to Her Excellency. Now, I get that you're disagreeing with me because you're saying that, this provision about the other elected member supports one. It's just that I am not convinced that issue arises. What I would love is if this matter could have been challenged in court, because I would be interested in hearing the words of the opinion of the judiciary regarding how this matter is to be interpreted. Because I can tell you that in most of the other Caribbean islands, in Barbados, in Grenada, in Antigua and Barbuda, where a similar situation has arisen, the Governor General was minded very differently to how the Governor General in Nevis appears to have been minded. And I take the point that you made to me yesterday that there was no leader of the opposition before because there was concern that one person couldn't support themselves. And my feeling is that was unfortunate because, again, in that instance, the prior provision is clear that there is a person eligible. And that person was eligible and should have appeared to the Governor General as being eligible.
That person, I take the point that person would have appeared to be eligible until it was expressly stated that that other person does not support that person. Peter,
well, I disagree, Azard. I disagree.
Okay. But of course, the Constitution also says that except at times when no representative is eligible for appointment. So it gives way for no one to be eligible as well. And again, we look at the Constitution that we have, the words that we have written here before us, because we realize that the constitutions in the Caribbean, they're similar, but not all the same. And so we must look at the words. I'm sure that the Constitution, as it relates to leader of the opposition in St. Kitts and Nevis, would be different from that in Barbados. And so we will have to look at the Barbados Constitution to give light to that. But nevertheless, we can agree to disagree on this point, and we could discuss the situation here. Jamster, can we have the audios played, both by first the Premier of Nevis, Matt Brantley, and then by Roy Fleming, so we could give a little insight as to what's happening and perhaps have Peter's comments and suggestions as it relates to that.
Because Janice must know that absent the support of Cleon, she cannot be leader of the opposition. The Constitution in Section 58 is pellucid. That to be leader of the opposition, that individual must have the support of at least one other elected official. And that the Governor General must be satisfied that that person has the support of at least one other. The only way that Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge can be leader of the opposition, as a matter of the Constitution, the highest law of the land, is for Cleon Stapleton Simmons to signal to the Governor General that she supports Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge in that position.
Matt Bratney. Roy Fleming.
This is Roy Fleming. As it relates to the matter in Nevis, the impasse, I believe what is missing is the conversation about how political parties function. You know, you have the party structure, the party leader, the deputy political leader, the executive committee candidates, etc., etc. I'm going to give you an analogy. There's a cricket team, and you have members of that team. And the captain says that an individual is to bat at number 6. Now, that individual cannot say, I want to open the inning. They don't have that authority. But I am of the firm view, Junie, that support for the opposition leader in Parliament in Nevis amongst members of the same party should be automatic, unequivocal, and not be based on any contingency. Now, had the Honourable Stapleton Simmons contested the elections as an independent candidate and won her seat, then she would certainly be within her rights to make whatever demands she deems fit in exchange for her support. She won her seat on the basis of being a NRP candidate, and as such, she should be expected to toe the party line as per normal practice within political parties. I am of the view that as the political leader of the NRP, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge did the right thing, however difficult, in not acceding to the demands made of her by her colleague. Had she given into subordination, then who knows what demands might be made of her in the future, 5 years from now, for instance, if NRP were to win the next elections and form the government. Elected candidates might just start to demand their preferred portfolios, and maybe, just maybe, Julie, a candidate might want to hold the party to ransom if he or she is not installed as premier. Can we all imagine if after every election, elected candidates of the winning party behave in a manner similar to that of the Honourable Stapleton Simmons? Julie, there would be political mayhem, chaos, confusion. Therefore, as it relates to how political parties function, I say that the status quo must remain in place to ensure political stability after each election.
Okay. So they had the view from the Honorable Premier and the view from Mr. Roy Fleming, a former candidate of the People's Action Movement. What are your views? I think the Honorable Matt Bratney would have agreed that, stated that, you know, he emphasized that at least one other representative. And then we had Roy Fleming, who gave his own analysis of the situation.
And they're both interesting. Premier Brantley is an attorney at law of some distinction, and he's expressed a view that he believes that there's another person needed. And I think it's fairly clear that there's a substantial body of opinion in St. Kitts that supports that view. However, I disagree. And I note that just not too long ago, Premier Brantley also expressed a view, which he said had considerable legal support, that he could write a letter to the Governor General and make Sean Richards Prime Minister, because him and a majority of people supported that option. That did not happen. And the point I'm making is that there's nothing wrong with Premier Brantley asserting his opinion in relation to the interpretation of the Constitution. But, you know, there is a reality that says it's not necessarily gospel. It doesn't work that way. Lawyers have differences of opinion, and I believe that you would find substantial lawyers that would disagree with him in Barbados and in Antigua. And for your information, the wording of the Constitution in all instances is almost similar. It's almost identical. The only difference is that Nevis specifically identifies a situation in which there's no opposition leader, simply because Nevis has a 5 members, and the presumption is that there could be none. So
but the Section 58 Section 58 also not only to I'm just saying it's not only just to Nevis, but it's also in situations of St. Kitts and Nevis when we have the federal government as well. So there could be none there as well.
St. Kitts and Nevis, fine, right? That's no problem. So I'm just reasserted. I get the point you're making. You agree with Premier Brantley. I'm saying that there was not a long time ago, and I believe you also agree with that opinion, that based on the wording of the Constitution, Premier Brantley and others had the right to identify Sean Richards as Prime Minister, and he should have taken over. You had a senior QC in the United Kingdom that expressed that view. I know you were of that view. I was not of that view.
Well,
And in
you
this
can't say
instance,
that I was of that view because I never
no, but
expressed
that's exactly what
being.
you
I
said to
never
me
expressed
privately.
being of that view. It's that situation is totally different than the one here.
It's not different. I'm just saying as that it demonstrates the fact that the interpretation of these matters constitutionally is
Mhm.
subject to the views and opinions of people. And in instances where it is not tested in the court, essentially you have analysts, you have lawyers, you have persons offering and expressing opinions on what they believe the interpretation should be.
And I agree
Because in the
with you
final
on. I agree
analysis,
with you
right.
on that
So I'm
aspect.
saying there's nothing wrong with us disagreeing. But please don't suggest that it is because I don't know the provision or you need to restate it, because the
No.
reality is that I've heard it, I've seen it,
Yeah.
and I disagree.
I'm
So that's essentially what I'm saying in relation to Premier Brantley's view. I believe it is a misunderstanding of how our constitutions in the Caribbean and including St. Kitts and Nevis works. And I do not believe that the Governor General needs any letter. I think the Governor General has ample opportunity. The question of eligibility in relation to that person, I think that's quite clear, that there are persons who are not loyal to government. There are persons who are elected members, and clearly they're eligible to become opposition leader because there's more than one person and they are not part of the government. So clearly they're eligible to be opposition leader if they're members of parliament. The other point in relation to the other gentleman who made a very erudite point in relation to party discipline, I agree and disagree. I agree with him that what he's saying is solid in terms of the de facto reality, that we understand that is the way it works. And I think he is correct that to not attempt to adhere to that level of party discipline, honestly, Dr. Hodges would be opening a can of worms where she would be encouraging all kinds of things to happen. So I agree with him. My only concern is that when I read the same constitution, which I'm being schooled on today, I don't see references being made to political parties. And again, that is one of the challenges in the Caribbean, that we have to interpret our constitution within the context of a de facto reality that runs against the grain of the de jure reality, which essentially says that political parties don't exist, when the reality is that we know all of them exist. We had a situation in Barbados where government gave money based on the financial regulations to political parties. It doesn't happen in St. Kitts and Nevis, but government gave money to political parties to assist with their own management through the Administration of Parliament Act. And there were persons who were saying that was technically unconstitutional because there was no reference to a political party in the Constitution of Barbados or indeed any other constitution of the Caribbean. So again, this is part of our interpretation, and I'm comfortable with the reality of political parties. I'm also comfortable with the reason that a Governor General can take note of circumstances that exist within the territory. The Governor General knows political parties exist. Indeed, she was part of one at one stage. And I think that it is part of that gives her the ability to reach in and make decisions consistent with what it appears to her to be likely and logical under the circumstances, because, you know, she's aware of the creature. But the letter of the law doesn't refer to political parties. And I don't know whether you have found reference to political parties, because you seem to know the Constitution a bit better than I do.
No, it does not refer to the political parties. But we do understand the reality of it is that when you are elected in St. Kitts and Nevis, most of the time you are a candidate of a political party, and of course the assumption is made that you not are elected on your own merit, but by the support of those members who support that party as well.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. That's the assumption that's being made. But you see, what's interesting is that on the one hand, you seem to be comfortable with the de facto reality in relation to the existence of political parties. But on the other hand, you are more comfortable with the spirit, with the letter of the Constitution with respect to the fact that there's no one eligible. And I'm saying that you can't have it both ways. You know, either we are interpreting the Constitution within the context of not only the letter, but the spirit. And I think that the idea of interpreting legislation, interpreting constitution requires that we look to the spirit. And I think the spirit of the thing is very much satisfied in both instances by looking at the de facto reality.
And I would tend to agree with you, but only because it says clearly there's an exception that when no representative is eligible for the appointment. So it shows clearly that there is a situation that there can be no leader of the opposition, and then based on the provision that has been provided by saying provided that no representative shall be eligible for the appointment unless it appears to the Governor General that representative commands the support of at least one other representative. So both based on the fact that the Constitution provides an opportunity for no leader of the opposition, and based on the fact that it's expressly, clearly, it says that distinctly that provided no representative shall be eligible for appointment unless it appears to the Governor General that the representative commands the support of at least one other representative. I think it clearly gives it sets up itself to show that there could be a situation that no leader of the opposition is appointed. And had it not been for those two things that are flagged, then I would tend to maybe even consider the thought that you have given in terms of the political reality. Because we do know that political parties exist, but based on those two things that I've highlighted within the Constitution, I think that it gives a very strong and clear answer that there is an opportunity for no leader of the opposition to be there.
Yeah, the issue of eligibility is what it comes down to. And you mentioned that provision, and that provision speaks clearly to a situation of ineligibility. And I continue not to be persuaded that that situation arises, because there is a person who is eligible by virtue of the fact that they are not loyal to the government and that they are a member of parliament. There are two people. The question is that the Governor General just has to choose two. So we're a situation where there would be no eligible person because all of them were loyal to the government, or alternatively, they were not elected. There was a person who, for one reason, was disqualified from election thereafter. Then that would speak to eligibility.
But then we had the
challenge.
We had a situation where there was 4-1, where there was
I
one
heard about
NRP,
that, yeah.
and there was no
Right,
leader
and
of the
again-
opposition.
Again, I think that was a misunderstanding of how the matter should have been, because my belief is that the one person should have been chosen because there was an eligible individual there. The idea of groups, and I think the reference to one other person is in situations where there's a group. But before we even get to
But
that,
it says one other representative.
eligibility.
They said didn't even say
Right.
one other representative, and representative based on the Constitution is elected member.
Right, and I get that, Azad. I mean, all of this we're going over ground that we've
Okay,
covered,
yes.
and I'm saying that before we even get to that point, the issue is there an eligible member who the Governor General can be persuaded ought to be chosen? And I think that there is an eligible member which ought to be chosen. And that, to me, is really what it comes down to. There is a clear indication to the Governor General that there is a member who is eligible in the past and in the present. The fact that that person was not chosen is a matter which, as I said, I think it's regrettable, but that's the way it is done. I just hope that these assumptions don't ever come back to bite the Nevis Island administration in the future. Because, as I said, it runs against the grain of what I understand to be constitutional interpretation at the level of the region. And as I said, I gave you two examples. You're saying St. Kitts and Nevis is different. I beg to differ. I think it is consistent with the traditions of Westminster system. We have all taken our constitutions from the Westminster system. And the reality is that one of the weaknesses of the Westminster system is that it assumes that we understand a lot of things which need to be stated. So you look at the American Constitution. The American Constitution states every single thing and tells us what happens in situations where that is not the case. The British Constitution still operates on the basis that the Queen will just know who to choose. And it doesn't give any sanction if she doesn't choose the right person. It doesn't give any clear guidelines for her in relation to who to choose. And the reality is that she would never have that problem, simply because when you have 600 members, the idea of it coming down to 2 is quite low. So I don't know that we are applying the correct assumptions. And again, I look to the first provision, which is what the Governor General's power is and what it appears to them, even before we get to this whole question of one other.
Okay, Peter. So we will agree to disagree at that point. I want to thank you on on being a part of the program here this morning. You know, you didn't have to, and you accepted the invitation, and I want to say thank you for doing so. Thank you for sharing your view on what you think is the best way forward and what could be done. And I want to say that, you know, we'll continue to have discussions like these because there's never a dull moment in the political atmosphere here in St. Kitts and Nevis. You can rest assured that that is so.
Just one quick point that, you know, the business of the Nevis Island administration continues without an opposition senator and without a leader of the opposition. While unfortunate, it doesn't appear to have been a problem in the past. So business will continue, and it certainly strengthens the hand of Premier Parry. So we continue to watch with great interest what's going on there.
Yes. Thank you, Peter.
All right. My pleasure. Good chatting with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was Peter Wickham, and we discussed the situation there with the NRP. Of course, they have the budget this morning in the Nevis Island Assembly. They will have their budget. We're going to have a short commercial break. We're going to acknowledge our sponsors and get back to you.
Calling night, noon and morning, tasty biscuit, just can't resist it. Tea time, calling night, noon and morning, tasty biscuit, just can't resist it.
You can dunk it, you look it, you taste it, you spin it, you twist it, you can mix them all together. It don't get any better. You can dunk it, you look it, you taste it, you spin it, you twist it, you can mix them all together. It don't get any better. Anytime, whatever time. It's tea time. Whatever time. It's tea time. Snack on a delicious tea time biscuit anytime. It's tea time.
Buster! We run things are on we. Buster! Living color, do it differently. Buster! Large and in charge, like for the party. Buster! We set the pace, then everybody follow it.
7 flavors, best taste. Buster, bolder, better. Pick your color.
We set the pace, then everybody follow it.
Buster, live in full color.
Buster!
Yes, and we're here. We're back again. It has been such an interesting day, and we're moving from discussion to discussion to discussion. And with us, we have two guests here. We have Michelina Charles Hazel, and we have Colin Brown. And we're going to be discussing the future of black education, the future of black education. And so I will allow my guests to introduce themselves, tell us something about you that persons might not know, and tell us something about you that gives you the opportunity to speak about the future of black education.
Ladies first.
It's because I'm pretty.
So good morning, Win FM. Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis. Good morning, world. Thank you, Azard. Thank you, Win FM. Thank you over there, Trent. We often don't see Trent, but he's the magician.
Yes.
Jamster, the magician's making us be on air and connecting to you. Thank you to everybody in the studio who make this show happen. Thank you for creating space, and thank you for having me. My name is Michelina Charles Hazel. That's like 25 letters. So I generally cut it down to 3, MCH.
MCH, I like that. MCH.
No, like seriously, like when I'm writing Michelina Charles Hazel, after like Michelina, the last A, I just be like, wow, we got like 20 more letters to go, 15. So I was like, it's just too long, let's just do MCH. I am a black educator, and I've been a black educator for 12 years formally, and informally. It's the only job I've ever had, being an educator, as well as I am obsessed with education. I love it. I just love education. And so that is my sector, that is my passion. And in this season, that's my purpose. And so preserving education and education systems is dear to me.
Awesome. Colin Brown?
Yes, Colin Brown.
Yes.
Morning, Azard.
Morning.
Thank you and WinFM for hosting us this morning. I'm
problem.
Colin Brown. I'm an engineer by training, but I'm an unreformed teacher. Earlier in my career, before I transitioned into engineering, I was a primary and secondary school teacher. And in this stage and phase of my life, I consider myself a promoter of engineering education and education in the science, technology, the STEAM field. So that is what makes me, I guess, special enough to be here in support of MCH advocacy for Black education in Black History Month. My particular advocacy is science, technology, STEAM, and engineering education.
Okay, so to my guest this morning, what is the situation as it relates to black education? What is the situation that we now have?
The situation for black education or Caribbean education, I'm not always a positive advocate, but, and that's because I love it, so I hold myself and those of us who are leading education very much accountable for reformation and for improving the systems both for education staff, and the students. Recently in St. Kitts and Nevis, we had violence that touched our schools. And I think it would be remiss of every one of us not to have a few moments of silence for the life that was lost. Thank you very much for that, WinFM. And condolence to the family that would have lost a mother. Condolence to her daughters. Just everybody who is mourning that loss, who would have witnessed that loss and the violence and the trauma. God be with you, and recovery is certain. Commendations to the Ministry of Education for extending the compassionate leave for teachers and children and the rest of the education staff at the Irish Town Primary School, and to all who have stood against violence. Congratulations for standing in community. Just bear in mind, I am very much paying attention because I will hold all of us accountable, not just to the performance stage, but to the service that we pledge to offer to education and community. I'm watching, every day I'm watching and I'm taking notes, because we cannot normalize the school not being safe. And so the future of black education, a very important component of it is school as a safe space. Because mass education accessible mass education is one of the transformative tools that made St. Kitts and Nevis and the region. It's one of the key components for development. And so we had that colonial classes, colorist structure removed, and we started building primary schools and making high schools accessible. And we had to do it in mass and take the cost almost away from it. And the school room and the school building became a safe haven, and it must remain a safe haven. And we must do everything within our power to protect it. The churches, the Christian Council, I expect a response because you are a partner in education. Every time we have to graduate, commence, everything. And so this is our problem to solve collectively. I saw the Spurs team, they did a march, and it was commendable because they used the field that is attached to the primary school. And so my advocacy today, the voice that I want to bring and the concern that I want us to address to make black education in St. Kitts and Nevis, because before I could talk to the region and before I could speak to the world, I must speak to home. I must be seen doing at home. We must not take for granted the safety that has been compromised. And we need service. We need all of us locking arms in arms, regardless of political affiliation, regardless of religious differences, regardless of socioeconomic status. We need all of us affirming, lifting every voice and saying that our schools must remain safe spaces. The army has a role to play. You can't just protect the borders and not the children in the border. Nevis have something to say because it has not happened there as yet. But we can't take for granted. I mean, the elders would say an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And I do not want us to take it lightly at all because I'm certain those teachers are traumatized. And I commend everybody for doing what they are doing and saying what they are saying in an effort to ensure that our school space is a safe space in every instance. And now it is World Engineering Week, and we're celebrating Engineering Week, and I will turn it over to Mr. Colin Brown because I am not a STEAM expert.
Yes. So, Mr. Brown.
Michelina, wait. Before we go over to the engineer, you have made a great case for school safety being the first pillar of education reform. But okay, we can go to him. But I want the two of you to answer this question. We've made the point that school violence should not be tolerated, and that things need to be done to fix that. So the next thing, obviously, you guys are going to deal with is what are the other pillars for education reform. But I'll turn it over to the engineer now, and you guys can address that when
Other pillars for education reform.
The first one is safety.
School safety.
That's clear.
Yes. So, Colin, you could give your response now as it relates to the school safety and also the fact that it's STEAM week. You could tell us what STEAM represents.
Let me try. Let me try to engineer a response. At risk of engineering a suboptimal response, let me speak like an engineer. I would say another pillar is education in the science, technology, engineering, math fields. So, as Ms. Charles said, we are celebrating, we are entering into what we refer to as Engineers Week. It's a 2-week period of recognition and celebration of our engineers and other technologists positively impact our community and make a difference in our world. And this impact is everywhere. It is quite pervasive, from security, from the economy, from bettering our lives. In the vein of education, I remember studying for math. I won't say what level of school I was studying at, by candlelight. by kerosene lamp. And now in an age where not only all students, I believe as a fundamental enabler of education, have access to electricity,
Yes.
but they have access to the internet. They have access to communication technologies and devices. And their right is an example of a very powerful impact engineers and science and technologists have had on the education field.
Mhm.
Access from you can study after the sun goes down to now you can study with world-class instructors, world-class educators around the world from the comfort of your couch on your smart TV and YouTube. So this is Engineers Week, and it culminates with World Engineering Day on March 4th. Various of my colleagues representing various organizations, various institutions will, during this week, have conversations about the need for technologists, the needs for scientists, technicians, as well as engineers. When we say engineers, as an engineer, as a proud engineer, an engineer may say you need an engineering degree to be an engineer, but we are, as practitioners in the field, know that an engineering degree is only one component. Lifelong education and learning on the job, mentorship, tutoring, real-world experience also contributes to forming a professional engineer, what we refer to as a professional engineer. So I appreciate Ms. Azard and MCH for the opportunity to kick off Engineers Week. I feel special this week. Generally speaking, I don't get to celebrate Father's Day. I don't get to celebrate Children's Day. Valentine's Day I try to celebrate more and more.
He's getting better.
But at least for Engineering Week and Engineering Day, I feel special. I want to recognize all my colleagues throughout the Federation and throughout the region and the world, particularly our female scientists, technologists, and engineers. And we will be particularly paying a focus on encouraging engineering education and encouraging students. Students who, just like myself many years ago, starting out on this journey in a small island in the Caribbean, not fully aware of what the profession entails and how far it could take you, both in your personal and professional development, but fascinated, having a fascination and a curiosity, and finding an environment where that curiosity and fascination could be nurtured and educated into, hopefully, an okay engineer is what I consider myself, and an advocate for engineering and science education.
Yes. Michelina, you would have noted safety, so I want to ask you, what are some of your recommendations as it relates to ensuring that schools are safe spaces of learning? Mr. Brown, you indicated the science aspect. So my question to you be, what are some of the recommendations you think schools could put in place to enhance their science programs, science and technology programs? So I'm going to go with Miss Mills.
Miss Mills, all of that in it. Name them, all of that in it. Some people know me as Michelina Mills. Come on, Azard, let's go, Michelina Mills. Yeah, man, before I was fancy. There we go.
So I'm gonna stick to MCH.
Because it's so much. But honestly, even for me, sometimes I'm like, what the name again? What my name?
Yes.
No, seriously, MCH. That's like the serious cop out. It's like, yeah.
Yes.
To ensure, I just want to say, Azard, that you are very bright, and these questions are, yeah, bright. They're bright questions. Thank you. One of the things I want the country to pay attention to is social dialogue. You cannot create safety for a population without including that population in the policy and plans. I see a lot of things on Facebook, and again, that's where I talk about the performance as opposed to the service stage. You can't create a safe school without talking to teachers. You just can't. They are stakeholders for a reason, because when you're done, take your picture and you're gone, they have to exist in that space. And so their comment, their content is valuable input. And you can't just talk to the principal and she team, because most often they's friends. and it does not reflect holistically the workforce, because teachers are workforce, educators, the parents, and the people who live next to the school. You must have social dialogue. How do I feel in business and marketing? Because that's a pivot I'm making as a creator. When you make something, you have to test it in the market. And test it in the market means put it down and let me hear what you think. Yes. Because if you're going to make a school safe, you're making it safe for education staff, you're making it safe for educators as a workforce, you're making it safe for parents, and you're making it safe for children. So you cannot create a solution for them without them. So the first step of safety, yes, you're going to get your fancy engineers and policymakers and ministers and whole of parliament and cabinet. But you must have the people you're creating the solution for, making that solution with you, because that top-down power approach is not sustainable.
Mr. Collin, thank you, Mr. Leader, for that. Mr. Collin, any recommendations of you could enhance the science and technology program in the school?
Well, first I have to say I hear the word for the fancy engineers them, but, but if I'm among the fancy engineers today, I'm proud to be counted. Yes. Very quickly, I would say inclusivity. Do not present science, let me phrase that, inclusivity and access. Our academic tradition in the region has tended in the past to give prominence to core academic subjects, core academic disciplines. We must make every effort to make science, technology inclusive and accessible to students and to the general population, whether that is supporting the technical vocational streams as well in our academic institutions, continuing education, initiatives such as access to ICT devices, and demystifying and making technology as recognizing the pervasiveness as pervasive as it is in our communities. Technology is all around us. Yes. Electricity is all around us. The internet is all around us. Remove the barriers to enthusiasm, the barriers to curiosity. I recall my days, I won't again say how long ago it was, where the computer lab was a off-limits place. When there's no class, the door was locked. Yeah. If you didn't have a class, you had to peep in and watch the others having class. Now we have reached a point where we see a ICT device as a core educational tool. The last thing I would say in terms of encouraging and supporting science as a pillar of education is examples. We have had prominent community examples of various professions over the years. The lawyers, the doctors, the preachers, the teachers. And as big an impact as engineering and science and technology has made on our lives, and I count the doctors among our colleagues in science and technology, more prominent recognition and the platform for the examples of the engineers and the scientists.
Wait, Colin, you're saying you're not fancy enough or you don't get a lot of platform?
Well, I'll just put for the record, right? I'm going to accept the fancy for the 2 weeks because I want to believe, I hope I'm not mistaken when I say this. I know Representative Congress Maynard, representative for number 3, is an engineer. Am I mistaken in thinking I think that is the first engineer who has been not the first doctor, of course, but the first engineer. But yes, I mean, having those examples of engineers as professionals, recognition of their contribution, the roads, the buildings, the piers, the bridge, the airport, and also being active participants in the community across areas. So your engineer can also be a leader in church. An engineer can also be a parliamentary representative, etc., etc. So,
your teacher.
Your teacher, your
Yes.
teacher, your teacher. So, and that is towards inspiring our students. So when you know, early on in you're in preschool and primary school, what do you want to be? You want to be the persons who are out in the public exciting you. You want to be a fireman. You want to be a policeman. I was so pleased to see a young child for Caribbean at preschool dressed up like a utility technician. So again, inspiring, encouraging, supporting access to science, technology, education from the earliest up as far as they would want to take it.
Yeah, those are interesting points. I think that perhaps as we go more and more into science, that you'll see more persons diversify. Often when it comes to sciences, you know that persons tend to shy away from the science platform because of sometimes the appeared difficulty of the chemistry, the biology, the physics, the math, you know.
Especially the math.
Yeah, so I think that might have been perhaps one of the contributors to perhaps not seeing as many engineers as we can see out there.
If I may make a point, they are out there. They are out there, but I agree with the point you are making, that traditionally the anxiety, the hesitation, the perceived difficulty, and that's not for me. Soon as I can stop doing math, soon as I can stop doing, you know, and the when will I ever use?
Yes.
But as we can tell from the world we live in today, it is a world substantially, the foundation is science and technology, and no one shies away from Wi-Fi. No one shies away from their smartphone. So we should not shy away. We should accept that these things are part of our community and well within our capacities and our abilities to leverage, to use in our social and economic development and contribute. There are persons from the Caribbean region, persons from St. Kitts, persons from Antigua, Dominica, who have reached the heights of the science and engineering professions globally and have made global contributions. Just last week, I saw a profile of the lady one of the ladies in the science field who was responsible for cryptography, the fundamentals of cryptography. And
what's cryptography? That sounds like a big word.
When you're shopping online with Amazon, how we make sure that your credit card details don't get stolen.
Yes.
When encryption.
Also, so the people who make sure they ain't thief me money from the bank. Okay.
Make sure when you're sending WhatsApp messages that the wrong message don't get into the wrong person.
Or the government can hack me.
Well, it depends on which government. But yes, I totally agree and support your point that initiatives such as Engineers Week and World Engineering Day are to increase visibility, encouragement, get excitement.
And I think it's for the engineers as well to create that passion and drive as well, because you find that a lot of persons who are in sciences, they tend not to want to be seen. So I had an experience when I went to the University of West Indies. At first, I started the science program, and I realized that while there, I was an active speaker. I used to, we had the class representatives and stuff like that, and I was more vocal than a lot of them. And at one point in time, someone asked me, "You sure you want to be in this field?" And then that is when I consider maybe, I've been doing science all the time. I got into the medical aspect, but I turned that down and said I wanted to do science. And then when I got there, I realized that my personality was different, and that I started to wonder, is the best approach the way I want to go? And I say all of that to say this, that when you look at science, especially in the Caribbean, you see more doing than more talking of the science. You don't see persons speaking about the technology as much.
Those who do as scientists don't talk about the science that they do.
Yes.
They take very different platforms. And as an educator, one of the things I'm realizing, I learned the theory, but as I'm living now as a doer in the community, we need to take our core disciplines and our core passions and marry them to other things. Like, I'm an artist. That's my core skill. And then because, you know, this society is so brought down and colonial, and art is not a real thing.
For them.
Yes. Unless they're getting it for free. Do this for me now. Michelina, you can't draw this. Michelina, you could do this graphics. It's not a substantive thing like science. But I realized when I went to St. Augustine UE campus that I paying a lot of money. I got development bank to pay. I'm laying on a chair to sit down in, and the maths wasn't mathsing for me. If I got development bank to pay, I must have a chair.
Yeah.
And the situation why I didn't have a chair is that it wasn't enough chair, and it was an art school in the Caribbean. Nobody cares. So I went to the lecturer and I said, how to figure out how to get a chair here, because I spending a lot of money and me supposed to sit down on the floor.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting down on the floor in St. Augustine, and they said, down by the gill. Them people down there, see if And I remember marching down there with me easel and me toolkit with my paint, and say, weighing on a chair. And somebody watched me and said, you want to run for gill election? And I said, I'm going to get a chair. and you know, I went to run for gill elections because I wanted a chair.
Yes.
And I won my post. I was humanities and education rep. And getting in there, I was able, using that pseudo-political platform, to improve the structure for the education campus. I think I had a thing for education long time. They needed a cafeteria because we were considered off campus. They needed a cafeteria, could go in the budget and, you know, get money and get a cafeteria and get money and improve the physical structure of the school I was a part of.
And you see how you said that, you see how you married a desire because it affected you. That is what I sometimes wish that we do when it comes to the politics as well. So you have persons in various areas who, you know, they're in their speciality, so they can bring that love and that niche
passion,
and
that
passion
voice.
and that voice
Yes.
in areas to change.
So you
and
ain't
develop.
expect to see me in foreign affairs. unless I'm, you know, doing diplomacy for education and bringing education to seeing kids from foreign countries.
But who doesn't like to travel, though?
I ain't got no lawyer money.
I guess because our population size is small, and you know that's a lot of consideration. But you find when persons are marrying their love or their passion with the act to serve, then they get
visibility.
Yeah, and they're able to make such a long-lasting impact.
And I think that's how it should be. Like, when I got the opportunity to be here, one of the things I'm realizing as an educator is that brown-skinned boys and girls and brown-skinned men and women are not prominent in the field of STEM globally. There are not enough of us. And that is a point of concern. And the Caribbean children, we can contribute to that. But I know nothing much bonus team. And I was like, but Colin does.
Yes.
And so we can share space, and he can bring that science, technology, education, art, mathematics, entrepreneur, engineering, flair of education, which is extremely critical and trending with the green economy and the blue economy and the tralala. And I could speak to, look, right, the school in McKnight need the people in McKnight to make the plan and the safety policy. Because the landscape of education is vast.
Yes.
Right, Mr. Brown?
Very bad.
Yes. I think we've had a very interesting discussion. And I think the discussion could go on for hours, but we have to conclude this morning. And of course, I want to thank both of you, both MCH and Mr. Brown, for being here. It
Colin,
has been
please.
Colin, it has been a pleasure. And I want to ask you now, if you have any final words, any lasting words that you want to give. I don't want to say final because you guys would have words again, I'm sure. So if any lasting words that you want to give at this point in time.
I'll go first. To all of the teachers out there today on the front line, we love you. We see you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for leading. We are amazing. And the education staff as well. And, you know, everybody that makes education sustainable, formidable, parents, all the stakeholders, children, but especially the teachers. I have a special place in my heart for teachers. You are incredible.
Thank you.
To all my colleague engineers, scientists, technologists, if you have not been doing so, but I am highly confident you have been, take the opportunity to speak to a student, visit a school, encourage a child, encourage a science teacher, a math teacher. We have to keep this thing going. We have to expand it. It's our week, and it's our opportunity to show out, demonstrate the impact, the care, the contribution, and the development that engineers, scientists, technologists have in our community.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. And there you had it for our Monday's edition, February 20th, 2023, of the morning program here at Win FM ILNT. I am your host, Azard Gumbs, and with me again has been Jamster, who has been very able and willing this morning. I like to say, I like to say, you know, I like to say, as we leave, only a fool looks forward to tomorrow, but still holds on to yesterday. So let us, as we look forward to tomorrow, not hold on to the past. Let us think forward and think future. Thank you.
Thank you.
WINN is 98.